I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. You forgot to say please. Bad to the bone. I broke 1,000 hearts before I made. Hey, Supersonic Hurry here, and I'm reviewing Terminator Genisys. Okay, don't worry guys, I will not be doing that throughout the entire review. Like, I promise! So Terminator Genisys is one of those movies where I just go to the cinema and I watch it and I leave the theater thinking to myself, you know, I kind of feel like watching the first movie again now. And that is the truth. Unfortunately, I could not go onto Netflix to rewatch the first movie because I had to write the script for this review. So here you go. Terminator Genisys is the 5th installment in the Terminator franchise, and can I just say that I am really impressed with this series. I mean, there is a really well received Terminator movie that came out in 1984, and yet 31 years later they are still making sequels to that same movie. Wow, when Arnold Schwarzenegger said, "I'll be back," he really meant it. Terminator Genisys takes place sometime after Salvation and is kind of retelling the first movie only from the perspective of 2029. Kyle Reese is sent back to 1984 to protect Sarah Connor from the T-800 that is also sent from the first movie. However, things have actually changed quite a bit since the first movie. Once Kyle Reese reaches the past, we don't see the damsel in distress that we see from the first movie. We actually see the Sarah Connor we see from Terminator 2 Judgement Day. This movie actually has a lot of winks to the previous films, especially the first two. When Kyle Reese and the T-800 both arrive in 1984, there is actually a scene that is ripped out straight from the first movie, only with a couple of minor changes. And I absolutely love noticing these winks, and let me tell you, you are only going to notice the winks to the previous films if you've actually seen the previous films. If you have not seen the first movie or second movie and you go straight into Genisys, you're not going to be able to understand the winks. In fact, I don't think you're going to be able to understand the story in general. One problem I do have with this movie story is that I think it's a bit more complicated than it needs to be. And I think half of the reason for that is because it feels like it keeps changing every 10 minutes in the first act. At first we think it's going to be a retelling of the first film, only with some twists behind it. And then we think it's going to be about a conflict between multiple Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminators, which I think would have been awesome to see for a whole movie. And then we think it's going to be a retelling of the second movie with a T-1000 liquid metal Terminator chasing our main protagonist. And then it goes on to a totally different direction that a lot of critics questioned, and I can see why after seeing the film myself. I personally do feel that they should have picked a story, and preferably one of the stories we thought we were going to get early on. I would have liked to see either the retelling of the first movie or the conflict between multiple Arnold Schwarzeneggers. That would sound like an awesome story, and it would have been awesome, and we do get a scene a lot like that. It's just a shame that it's only one scene, because I would have loved to see a conflict like that throughout an entire 2-hour movie. That is what I think Genisys should have been about, but instead it goes in another direction, and I feel like it's a bit disappointing, and so does a lot of other critics. Now, it did feel like the story was changing every 20 to 30 minutes in the first act of the story. I kind of feel like the first act was kind of the best bit of the entire movie because it had so many references and there are quite a few directions I wouldn't have mind seeing Genisys go. Not to mention there are a lot of winks to the previous films that, again, you'd only get if you've seen the previous films. Like this scene. I named him Pops. I'm trying to get him to blend in. It still needs work, I know. I cracked up laughing at that scene. It'd be funnier if it wasn't in the trailer. Character-wise, we have Sarah Connor back as our main protagonist, which is fantastic to see after her absence in Rise of the Machines and Salvation. Sarah Connor is just a fantastic character and it's great to see her back in action. Arnold Schwarzenegger is back, and he is the highlight of the film. I mean, anyone who's seen this movie can say that. I mean, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger for crying out loud. Arnold Schwarzenegger is definitely the highlight of the film. Everything he says, it's just really quotable once again, and he's just fantastic to watch. And they actually also come up with an excuse to why he's aged so much. Kyle Reese returns as a main protagonist as well, but I will honestly say that I do prefer his character from the first movie and Salvation. Unfortunately, there's John Connor. Oh my goodness, John, what did they do to you? Now, John Connor actually has a twist, half of which is given away in the trailers, but the other half is just a totally different direction that I really hold a grudge against. It's really hard to go in depth and detail as to why I have a problem with it, but let's just say that if you've seen the movie, you will probably know what I'm talking about and you'll probably know why I have a problem against John Connor's character. He just goes in a totally different direction and it really definitely ruins John Connor for me. Going into this movie actually looked really intense action-wise, but the only reason why I went to this movie thinking that is because the majority of the most intense moments in the action was given away in the trailers. And this is really bugging me by this point. When will the marketing people ever learn not to show too much action in the trailers? I'm not saying I didn't like the action from this movie. I really did enjoy the action from this movie. The gunfights, the car chases, the explosions, the special effects. This movie had really good action. I just think I would have liked it more if the trailers didn't give so much away for me. The people who made trailers really need to show us less information about what it's about because this is really getting out of control. I really do wish I went into this movie without seeing the trailers because it probably would have been an even better experience for me. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy my time, the action was really good, it actually vibrated the entire cinema for me. It was a great experience. It just would have been an even better experience if it wasn't in the trailers. But never mind that now. How about these special effects themselves? I will say that these special effects look great. I think this is one of, if not the best looking Terminator film to date. And my goodness, the endoskeletons of the T-800s in the film look fantastic. They look awesome. The shining lighting and detail on these cyborgs, my gosh! Man, they look awesome! And the score. Oh my gosh, the score. Now yes, it's pretty much the same score that was in the previous film, so you will probably know it already. But I can't tell you how awesome the remix of the score is. There are multiple occasions in the movie where there would be characters interacting and then suddenly Arnold Schwarzenegger would appear on screen and suddenly the music changes and goes da 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 da. When that score is playing with Arnold on screen, you know it just got real. Man, I love that score. Give it to me again. Come on. Yeah. Man, that song is going to be there for ages. In conclusion, Terminator Genisys is not the best Terminator movie in the franchise, but it's not the worst either. Is Terminator Genisys great? No. The fact that the story keeps changing early on does get a little grating for me. The story overall eventually goes in a direction I don't think it should have gone. John Connor's character goes in a really bad direction in my opinion, and too much stuff has been shown in the trailers. But is Terminator Genisys good? Yes. The score is fantastic. The action would be great, especially if you haven't seen the trailers. Sarah Connor and Schwarzenegger have just as much chemistry and friendship between the two as John and the Terminator do in the second movie. I do love their chemistry. And not to mention the references to previous films early on. Terminator Genisys, in my opinion, is a good movie. I'm glad I saw it in cinemas. But now that I've reviewed Terminator Genisys, I am actually going to go ahead and review all of the other Terminator movies in the franchise. I'm Supersonic Corey, signing off, and until then, I'll be back.